I think that you hit something on the head, and that really is, sometimes we all know that this is a grind.
Right.
And I think a really good way to distinguish, I always say, like, I have nothing, if people want to coach and spend their time doing that, and they really love to teach, great.
100%.
100%. But if you aren't doing the deals, then you're going to find that that's pulling you. That's a whole different business. And it's one thing, like I personally, I'm going to want to invest in somebody that's doing the business. So to me, it's credibility built in without it feeling like I'm not really, you're not accessible, because a lot of these people, they'll put you in the car with you and sell that program. And sometimes it's limited because they're like, well, I can do this one thing and I can teach you this one strategy, and then you have to go and do it yourself. It seems like you're giving, much like, Jamil, when we were talking to him, that full 360 experience.
Right. And
sometimes you have to touch and feel and hear to realize that you're in your own way. So I think that's just a great opportunity.
It's a good point, and it brings up another weird thought. The biggest thing, the biggest deterrent from people that hang out with me from getting a real deal is that I'm too accessible. It looks too easy. Wow. You're not telling me something. Okay, yes, I saw, like Monday, I had a guy with me sign a contract at 10 o'clock, go and sign another contract at 1 o'clock. Actually, I had the weirdest appointment the other day. I'm going to talk about it on my Sunday deal. Monday, we go to this house, and I'm in this appointment, and the seller, I never give them a number, ever. Rule number 1, it's about the house. It's not about the house, it's about the people. Rule number 2, don't ever give your number until you know that they're ready. Mm-hmm. So I broke my rule. And when I've broken my rule in the past, I've had people stand up from the appointment and walk out of their own house, get in their car, and leave. Like, they were that offended by my number. So I'm like...
Some would say that's a good day.
I'm like, what the freak? I'm in your house by myself, right? I've had weird stuff happen.
I'll have an inspector come by.
So this is really weird. I've never heard of anybody have this happen to them. Maybe it has and nobody talks about it. But I'm in this appointment, and I knew that the buy number was 140. And I said, okay, well, tell me the story. I'm going to save all this time because I know we're already chewing up time.
No, please, go ahead.
So I get her story. The house has been vacant 4 years. Her husband had passed away, but she had an emotional connection. Like, that was where my husband and I lived, right? Super important for you to understand that if you're going to try and get this deal done. So you kind of jump into that. Okay, well, how's life going now? You got grandkids. Oh my gosh, that sounds like that's where you build the rapport. So her name's Patty. So Patty, when you sat down and you were trying to figure out what the perfect scenario was for you, timeline, price, all that kind of stuff, what were you thinking on the number you were trying to get out of the property? She goes, I have no idea. I really don't have any idea. 99.9% of the time. I used to say 100% of the time. Now I've been proven wrong. It's that 0.1%. 99.9% of the time, the seller's not telling you the truth. Absolutely. They have a number. Yep. You need to extract it out.
Right. Yep.
Right? Therefore, the game can ensue of, that's a little high, maybe I'm not a good buyer for you or whatever. So I go, this is like 30 minutes of me trying to get the number. Really, 30 minutes. That's a long time. Right? I went back out to the pool to look at this, and I came back in, asked the question a different way. The windows that's weird about the window. Blah, blah. All right, try to get the number again. Wouldn't give it to me. So I go, okay. So I said, Patty, if somebody, not me, because I'm not going to give you a number, if somebody came in and said they can close in 2 weeks and they can give you $125,000, how would that hit you? How would you feel about that? She goes, okay. I go, all right, well, great. I just used the only contract I had in my car. Why don't you follow me to my title company? We'll just go open up escrow right now. And it's literally a 20, 30-minute drive to the title company. And the whole time I'm looking behind me like, is she still following me? Is she still, literally she follows me all the way to the spot, walk in the title company, open up escrow right there. We printed out a standard contract, and I'm like, wow, I gave her a number. I got her to follow me to my title company to open up escrow because she didn't have an email. I couldn't have DocuSigned anything to her. So I just said, follow me to the title company. I've never had that happen. So that's a smaller version of the story that I'll tell on Sunday. But it's interesting how different these appointments are and how basic they are. What happens is when I take people on the appointments, the guy that was with me goes, that's all you had to do to get a contract? And I'm like, You guys are making this way harder than it really is. You
It's
think that I
true.
should be you think that I should be doused in gold and I should be driving a car that doesn't even exist on the open market and I should be helicoptering into the seller's backyard and with a contract in hand. It's so basic. It's basic human relationships.
Absolutely.
And it's you're buying a product from them.
Yep.
And all you have to do is understand their story. And so I get people, this is again, sorry for that big long tangent, but
No, I'm grateful for it.
reason I went on the tangent is to say the people that end up not doing anything from our advice and actually going on appointments are the people that feel like this is too easy. You're hiding something from me. There's a secret list that you have that you haven't brought up. There's a secret script. And I'm like, no, I just opened up 2 escrows in front of you. He was with me in the car, watched me say, oh, hey, Heather, that's my escrow officer. Here's a contract we signed this morning, boom. Usually I'll just email him, but I was going to the title company anyway. So I open up escrow with this one, pull out my checkbook, write a check, and then I go, and hey, this is Patty, she's here to sign a contract. Open up escrow, and then I go, do you have any questions for Heather? This is who's gonna be handling the transaction. I walk out and I go, so hey, do you have any questions? So the gentleman that was with me, he goes, that was just too easy. There's no way that this is what. I'm like, you just saw 2 contracts get done. So I hope that he goes off and does something, and I hope I can help him more. But there's a lot of people that they expect it to be harder, and they build these things in their brain, and they end up not getting anything done. It's
and
crazy.
I think the other side to that is probably also a little bit of they see it being so easy for you. What they don't see behind it is that you've probably taken a lot of time to figure out how to connect. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of backside to that. Like our job as like buyers and closers and acquisitions.
Right.
Is to make them feel you're in control, but you're not making them feel like you are. And that's an art that takes just trying and going and figuring out who you are in your groove.
Right.
And so that's one side. But it's also what they're going to find is when they go on their appointments, it might not be that easy for them at first. Mm-hmm. And that's because I think the answer to that is that they just don't know themselves yet. And they haven't picked up that it is just that connection that you figure out.
I call it the push-up factor, and I talked about it a little bit last night about people that you'll look at somebody that's been in this business for 2 years, the same way that I look at maybe a personal trainer that's body's built, shredded, eating healthy, and people get so stressed out about like after 30 days, they're like, I'm not losing weight, I'm not gaining muscle, I'm not doing whatever. It's like, yeah, that dude took a year or 2 years to get to that point. So the first step is you can't start today doing 200 push-ups in a row. You start today by doing 1 push-up on your knees, and then in a week trying to do one without your knees and falling flat on your face. But if you stay consistent, cliche phrase, but if you stay consistent in 30 days, you're gonna realize, wow, this really is easy. It just requires a little bit of effort.
Yes.
Yeah, consistency is key. Again, another cliche.
And
but
effort. It takes effort. And I think a lot of people come into this wanting to just nail it, make it be easy, like I said. And I really I think Donnie said that too at the Propelio event recently, where he was like, guys, you have to pay your dues.
100%.
You have to put in the time. So if you're out there with the attitude that this is just, oh, everyone makes it look so easy, they're lying to you. But at the same time, there is an ease when you let go of that fear and just fail and keep failing and figuring out what works, and you have to pay your dues.
Right. I like that you said about how you have to switch it up and how you have to really find your groove and your space because, for example, I just sat down with a couple. They're both in corporate America, and they have a mentor, a partner and mentor in their business. And their mentor took them to a seller appointment, and he came in suit and tie, all dressed up to the nines, and he's doing a presentation. And they're both like, okay, 30 minutes, and he's just very like...
This is for a wholesale transaction?
For a wholesale transaction.
Oh, my word.
Yes. So there are 3 of them in the appointment, yes. And I'm listening to her like, wow. And I know the mentor, right? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's okay, because I know who he is. I know that's how he dresses. But I'm like, wow, to a seller appointment? Oh, okay. First of all, no. And second, she's like, and then I ended up seeing, I think that she saw the ID card that he was in the armed forces. So she's made a comment about that. And the conversation took a different toll. Like the seller was not responding. They were not giving in. Once she brought that in, and the guy loved her. The seller loved her, and the conversation went somewhere else.
Rapport instead of a freaking flipboard.
And she's new, and she's like, so what do you think I'm like, bingo. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. She's like, so we can just go on appointments alone? Yes. And I tell her husband or her partner, you can take her to appointments. She's gonna smooth things out and make it so much easier.
Yeah.
Right.
And we talked about how
100%.
Nelson and I, how our dynamic works perfectly. Because
I don't want you guys to come to Phoenix because then I wouldn't buy any deals. You guys would be beating me out all the time.
One really good tip on that I think is really good for anybody going out there, find something in the house. Scan your eyes. Even if there are holes and cockroaches, you find one thing
Super great
in
advice.
that house. Look at a picture, look at a diploma, look at any kind of like Navy, any way that you can ask them about them. And I always try and say, like, make them talk 70% of the time at first because you just want them to connect with you. So that's one small tip I think you can take to kind of foster this if you don't feel like you're somebody who's very patient with that kind of thing.
Right. You have to really, really hone in on the skill of the art of listening. That's so key because that's what you're doing there. You're not there to pitch and to talk. You're an earful to them. You're there to listen to how you can make things happen.
You know what's funny is that when you sometimes, I'm sure you guys are great at this, so it's happened to you, is that by the end of the appointment, you could probably bet $1,000 on the fact that your seller doesn't know your last name, but they're selling their biggest asset to you.
That's fascinating. That's a good point.
Super interesting, right?
Yep, very
They'll remember
interesting.
your first name for the most part. There's been times where people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. What's your name? And I'm like, we have an open escrow, and you don't even know my name.
Yep.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem like it here, right? But I can turn it off. I can change the switch to now I'm not the talker, I'm the listener. But here we're talking and telling people stuff, but that is a really good point. You've got to be a listener and you got to be absolutely fascinated with stuff, weird crap in people's houses.
The weirder, the better. Anything. The weirder, the better.
What are the
really.
names of your cockroaches?
Real estate investors are literally the most interesting people because the conversations, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't.
And I think
No,
it makes you just an interesting person, and it makes you able to just talk to people and talk to people and talk to people. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. We talk a lot about tips for getting contracts and sellers, but I think this is an aspect that we've really honed in on that is so key and important, and obviously your success speaks to that.
This is Steve. Steve is a successful real estate investor. Steve is wearing glasses, so therefore you know he's a successful real estate investor. You go, Steve. Go, Steve, go. Go get those dollars. You see that blue dot? That's Steve. Just looking at houses left and right. Look at him go. Get the Driving for Dollars app today. All without leaving your car.